Okay, guys, what's up? Unarrested back, and today trying out a new camera. Hopefully, this records okay with my microphone and new camera. Hopefully, the quality is a little bit better. I'm deciding whether or not to change the focus to the front or the back, but let's get out of talking about tech stuff and get right into the video of police encounters in Japan. As you can probably imagine, me being a white guy with tattoos in Japan marks me as a criminal right away. I'm guilty of being white in Japan. Just joking. But I did get stopped quite a bit. And I do have my stories about getting stopped. And don't worry, not all of these are negative. I tried to make a mix and keep them lighthearted. Probably this first one's going to be the most angry I was because I was on my way to pick up my son. My son had wet himself at kinder, so I was picking him up early and bringing him a dry pair of clothes. He had run out of dry clothes at the kinder place. You usually keep some on um, you keep some with him, but it was a day where you switch everything out. There's a day every week where you switch out like sleeping mat, dry clothes, and all this stuff. And he was out for that day, and they were doing laundry at the same time. So I was just going to pick him up early because he had wet himself and needed dry clothes. They of course had him in temporary stuff there. They have their own temporary stuff to give him, but you know they want that stuff returned in for you to bring it. Anyway, enough about that. I'm on my way. I'm rushing because I feel bad for my son. He's there, probably a little bit embarrassed, although he was only like 2 years old, 1 or 2 years old, 1.5 or two, around that age. So not mega embarrassed. Everybody's wetting themselves around that time. And when I say kindergarten, you're probably wondering, like, what do you mean? Like, how's that kindergarten? Well, there's actually like three different levels of kindergarten in Japan. You start at Hoikuen, which is the first level. Then there's K1, K2, and K3. I guess Hoikuen would more so transfer to daycare if it was translated. So let's say daycare. I was on my way to daycare to pick up my boy, and I'm in a rush. I've got a backpack full of stuff, and it's insane hot. I remember it was a summer, so like I had a button-up shirt because I was coming from my job, but I had like a bunch of the top buttons unbuttoned to just kind of get some air. So I'm looking like, I don't know, an islander, like I'm living an island lifestyle or something like that. I've got one of those waist packs on at the same time that has like a bunch of his powdered milk and everything like that in it. And so I'm rushing really fast, and a police car pulls up next to me. It's driving real slow, pretty much following me like I've got my own personal remote control car. And they stop me. They pull over on the side of the road. They're like, whoa, 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 tomeru, tomeru, tomeru. And like, they're like, yamete kudasai, chotto mate. And they're like, they're like, can I see your ID? And I'm like, yeah, here's my Gaijin ID. And I keep walking. Like, I don't stop to talk to them. Like, I just keep walking faster. Like, whoa, whoa, why are you in such a rush? And I'm like, I'm going to pick up my son and give him dry clothes. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, where? And like, I guess they didn't know that there was a preschool in the area. This was like a really industrial area with like a giant hospital next to it and everything like that. And I pointed up, like, up there, and like, it's part of a building that, like, it's not completely obvious right away. Um, but I was rushing there fast, and I didn't stop. So they're like rushing alongside of me. They're like, wait, 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 can we like look at your bag? And actually, no, you can't. You can actually show the police an actual law that says no, you're not allowed to look at my bag without a warrant. But I didn't have time for this BS. So I whip off my like waist bag. I give it to him. I'm like, here, start looking through it. And they're like, what about the backpack too? And I'm like, that's got my son's dry clothes in it. You go ahead and go through this while I go up the stairs up there and get my son. I'm like super pissed at this point because I'm just like, dude, I'm just trying to get there as fast as I can. Like, the poor guy is waiting for me. He's had a rough day. He's probably cranky. He's probably hungry. He probably wants to get home and get his nap and have a snack and stuff like that. And you assholes are stopping me like I'm some sort of mega criminal. On the back of my Gaijin card, by the way, it says your job. And my job at that time said Youchien no Sensei, kindergarten teacher. So great job. You've definitely tracked down the world's worst criminal, kindergarten teacher. Excellent work, Japanese Koban. So they're like digging through everything, and I just leave it all there with them. So I mean, it's kind of like, they must have thought like, oh, this guy's just gonna trust us with his backpack and his waist bag. And so yeah, they found a bunch of powdered milk. They found a bunch of dry kids' clothes. And then as I, go in there and I get, one thing I did say before I went up there, I should remember this. I said, I'm going to go up there and get my son. You are not coming in with me because that would be embarrassing. And they're like,はい、わかった、わかりました、simasen. Like they start to, I see them start to get a little bit nervous. And like at this time, like doctors and nurses are like, going across the street because this hospital's massive. That's next to like where my son goes to preschool. And like, they're carrying clipboards, they're carrying all kinds of like, stat stuff and things like that. And, they're starting to eye the police, like kind of give them the stink eye, like what is this dude? Like, why are they stopping this dude? What did this guy do? And, I head up there. I tell him, you're not coming in with me because that would be embarrassing. I don't need to be followed by the police as I pick my son up from school like a criminal. I go in there and I get him, and, they watch me emerge from there holding my tiny son's hand, who at that time has just got like the most cherub looking little face ever. Looks, kind of sad and cranky. And they realize I've just been telling the truth the whole time, that they've just gone through and raided, children's clothes and Pampers and powdered milk. They've tracked down a rugged kindergarten teacher who's picking up his son at preschool. And the look on their faces, because they're kind of like cornered by people crossing the street. It's kind of a busy area. There's like this overhead bridge that connects the two buildings of the hospital. And they're just like stuck in front of this crowd of people, kind of like cornering a kindergarten teacher for picking up his kid. And it's pretty obvious. We've been talking about this all in Japanese the whole time. And they give the most absolute we lost face right now bow to me, like a super low bow. And they also address me as Ackerman Sama, which is like, it's like a higher level of, Ackerman san, right? Like Sama, you'd usually only give to like a well-known customer or something like that, or a customer in a store. So, the reason they know my name now is because they have my ID. That's why they're using my full last name and an honorary in front of it. They're like, Ackerman Sama, Hantoni, gomenasai. And like they did this like super low bow. Like, and it was like a young guy and an older guy who's probably like the age I am now. It's like, so like a 45-year-old guy and like a younger 20-year-old dude who was, I think he was like teaching them how the beat works. And they were mortified at what they had done. So if they like deeply bowed, I was like, hi, 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 yo, yo, yo. And I just like grabbed my stuff and went, but at the same time I was like, well, that's what you get, you dumb assholes. Don't profile people. So that's kind of one of my most negative interactions I ever had, because I was kind of like in a super bad mood, super pissed, super in a rush, and then stopped like I'm a criminal on the way. So, and look, this is not every Japanese policeman. I'm not saying they all act like this. In fact, I will say I've lived in Osaka Tennoji for a very long time, about 13 years in that area alone. And the cops that I pass by in the Koban there that are like right next to my house, like are like, hey, what's up? And stuff. And they've never stopped me. They've never bothered me. They leave me completely alone. I've actually talked to them one time when I found a drunk guy like beating his girlfriend, and I called them over and they're like, oh shit. Like, and they ran over there and like stopped it right away, arrested the guy and threw him in the drunk jail. So I mean, they're good dudes over there. Like they follow through, and I think they're a little less racist just because the area is like more diverse. Anyway, let's move on. Fujidera. I used to work as a elementary school teacher out in Fujidera, and it's a pretty ghetto area. It's like very, very, very well, it actually gets into what's called Barakuman families. If you don't know what Barakuman are, like I have to go off on a long tangent to explain this, but it's pretty much untouchables. People who work like the lowest jobs of Japanese society. And the schools there are very overwhelmed with a lack of support and a lack of funding, and the government just doesn't really do a lot to help them. Like everything in this school was broken. I felt so bad for them. But I worked my full contract all the way to the end. It was a good school. They had a lot of heart. There's a lot of passion at that school to make those students' lives better. So I felt great working there. The teachers I worked with, wonderful. The students I worked with, maybe not always so wonderful, a bit chaotic at times, like throwing paper balls at the Japanese teacher while I'm like, hey, can you guys please leave this poor lady alone? But they were always cool with me, but whatever. Um, I think I was too unpredictable. That's why they didn't tempt fate with me. Um, so I'm on my way home from that job. I just finished. Like I'm literally like I walk out. I've got a train to catch. About 13 minutes from when I leave the front door of that place, and I'm stopped because again I'm rushing. I'm always rushing. You're rushing to try and catch your trains, pretty much, or like get to the next. You're always rushing in Osaka or Tokyo. Let's just be honest. Um, and I'm stopped by this cop who's like ID, and I'm like, why? Like you can ask him right, like, why? He's like, because it's my job, and I'm like, all right. And another cop comes over who's like a lot older, and he can already tell like I'm fucking pissed, right? Like I'm absolutely pissed. And sorry for the rough language. I apologize, but like, I'm being profiled again for being white, right, in Japan. And this time too, like I'm even covered up, like my tattoos aren't even showing or anything like that. So they're just pretty much like white guy does not belong in this area, because you can't have your tattoos out at school in Japan. So I'm just like, all right, take a look at it. And he's like, then he starts out, he's like, what's your name? I'm like, Scott Ackerman. And he's like, no, it says Acker. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's your last name. You went first name and then last name. We usually do last name and then first name. It's like, okay, whatever, I don't care. And then he started to go through different stuff like, what's your job? And I'm like, did you look at the back of the card? And he flips it over, and I'm like, it says elementary school teacher. Are you okay? Like I asked, I'm like, are you all right? Can you read all right? Like, I mean, it says it like in katakana and in English on the back. Like I can read both of those. You don't need to know any kanji. Like, come on, bud. And he's like, yeah, I can read it, whatever. And like this old guy who came over, like he's probably like in his, I don't know, probably like near retirement, 65 plus or something like that. And he's like, oh, your Japanese is so good. And I'm like, hi, 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 hi. Like, I've heard this patronizing, oh, Nihongo ga jouzu, Nihongo jouzu. Like, you'll hear this a million times, even if your Japanese is straight trash. And my Japanese was trash at that point. I think I'd only been in Japan like 3 or 4 years. So it was like kindergarten level baby Japanese. But he's like, oh, Nihongo ga jouzu ne. And then he's like, how long have you lived in Japan? I'm like, it says it on the card. Why are you looking at my card and asking me these questions? And I'm like, 4 years. It says it right here. And I start pointing to the card. He's like, okay, all right, I get it. And then oh yeah, yeah, I remember. I had to write this one down because he's like, so why are you here in Japan? And I'm like, it's a work visa. I'm working. And like, he's like, oh yeah. Like he kind of realized like that was kind of a really dumb question. Like it literally says like English instructor, or it might have said humanities. Sometimes they call it humanities. I don't know why. But like my job's also written on the back, of the card. So it's like you got 2 different places on the card about why I'm here, and even the type of card it is on there, and even my type of visa is on there. Why are you asking me this? Like the picture on the card's perfect. You're not faking one of these cards. Like, there's all these different holograms and different parts of the card that would be very difficult to create. It would be a lot of work to work, the low-paying job of an elementary school teacher. So I'm not sure why you think I'm here with a counterfeit gaijin card. And then finally, like, where you live, and I like just repeat it, and I'm just like, okay, can I go now? Like, I've already missed my train. And he's like, all right, I guess, but if we ask you again, we need to look at it. I'm like, why? Are you gonna forget? And he was just like, whatever, and walked off. And it's like, fuck you, dude. Like, go get bent. Like, that really pissed me off. That was a really, like, probably a more angry encounter I had, where he thought he was going to get me on something, I guess. But I'm literally, like, an elementary school teacher trying to get home and just, like, enjoy the rest of my day. I was also picking my son up, too, during that time, too. Like, when I'm working those jobs, like, my son's still, like, baby, You're so busy during that time. You just don't have time for BS. The next one is police stopping me on my bike. I was stopped at least 2 different times. There was one time I definitely remember the most. It was the first time I was ever stopped. And I remember when I bought a bike in Japan, I thought this was ridiculous. They're like, all right, what's your gaijin card? And I'm like, okay, here it is. And I'm like, why? I don't have like a driver's license. It's just like a citizen's card, right? And they're like, okay, because we got to connect it to the bike. And it's like, oh, okay. And then they put this special sticker on there like it's a license plate. And I'm like, is this serious? And they're like, yeah, bikes get stolen here all the time. In Osaka, at least. Osaka gets a lot of bikes stolen. I had 2 different bikes stolen into Osaka, so protect your bike. They were locked too. So um, I go and pull over and I have them check it. They're like, so where'd you get this bike from? And I think I had gotten it from Juiceco. I'm like, I think Juiceco. I can't remember. They're like, you can't remember, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, what color is it? And it's like right in front of me, it's green. I'm like, Midori? Like, I'm just like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, what are these questions? These guys were really young, though, who were stopping me. So I guess they were just like doing some kind of training session. They're like, what's the number on it? I'm like, I don't know the license number. Like, it's not like a normal license, like on the back of your car in America, where I think it's only like 6 digits or something like that. It's like this long barcode number. And I was like, I don't know that. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, well, I guess most people don't know that. All right. And the name is Sukoto Ako. Like, they could not pronounce my name. Like, they were like losing their mind trying to pronounce my name. It's not crazy difficult. It's written in katakana. It's not written in English. And I'm like, Scott Ackerman. And they're like, Koto. I was like, this guy, like, are they okay? Like, what is going on here? I'm like, all right, here, show me the katakana. And they like showed me on like whatever device they were writing this information on. Like, Sukato Aka Ma. And they like said it after me, like, okay. And like that was it. Like, I guess like they were just trying to fill this stuff out and like check. They were like a bunch of young guys. I didn't get overly angry at this. I think they were like 18 or 19. Yes, you can start to work as a police officer at 18 and 19. You actually can get the job right out of high school. There's no college degree required. So I was just kind of like, okay, great job, guys. You did it. You got all the information. And then I guess we'll go just to the last story here. Now, this one was a crazy one, okay? This one took a turn that I did not expect. I thought at first these guys were profiling me. I really did. And this is why I say, like, you know, not all Japanese policemen are, you know, racist jerks or like you're going to profile you. Like, just stop and listen to hear what they have to say. And maybe there is really a good reason for why they're stopping you. So I'm about to go into my apartment. I'm getting back from just buying some groceries. And I happened to be with my girlfriend at the time. And so she was able to translate because I was only there for like 1 or 2 years. 2 years, I think maybe at this point. And so she was able to translate right away, which was good because I didn't understand what the hell was going on. There's like 4 guys. And they're dressed like in normal clothes. These are plain clothes officers. They're dressed just like any sort of regular civilian you would see in Japan. And they're young, dude. They're like early 20s. They're probably like 2022, 2025 years old. I have no idea exactly. They looked really young to me. Maybe they were older. Japanese in general do tend to look a lot younger. And one of them walks up to me, and just like you'd have like a key lanyard type thing that slides off, he pulls underneath his button-up shirt and slides it out, and it's a badge. And he's like, "Keisatsu." And like at first I thought, oh, Jesus Christ, you're gonna ID me and like do all this right as I'm trying to get into the door with my groceries? And he's like, listen up. Someone is stealing bags in your apartment complex, and we're thinking right now they're hiding inside of one of your apartments. Can we please do a full search of your apartment? And I thought, what a fucking load of bullshit. Like, sorry again for the harsh language, but like, you know, I'd already had some pretty bad experiences. In my mind, I'm thinking, what a bunch of bullshit. You just want to search my house and see if I have anything that's like illegal or contraband. Whatever, come on in. Like, I barely owned anything at this point. Like, I think I owned clothes, and that's about it. All the furniture in the apartment was like already in there when I moved in. So I said, yeah, sure, go ahead. And they start going all around the apartment, and they're opening up my closets. They're like looking through my cabinets and drawers. And I thought, like, okay, let's see what you find, guys. Ha ha ha. And like, I you know, I'm talking to my girlfriend in English. They don't understand any English at all. And I'm like, what do you think? They're just trying to like find something they can bust me on. And she's like, no, they seemed like they were pretty serious about like actually finding somebody. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And they're like, they go through everything. They feel really satisfied with their search. Like, okay, hey, the purse thief is not in your apartment. All right, thank you for letting us search. We're going to continue to search this building. And this building had like a really weird setup. It was like a square stairwell that goes all the way down. You could like look all the way down. You know, if you did a flip over the banister, you would die. I think I was on the 4th floor, and they head out of my place, and I still have groceries like on the outside. Like I dropped the bunch down, so I've got the door halfway open and starting to pull in the rest of the groceries. And I hear someone scream in the stairwell, and they're like, Yamiru! And like, you know, they start shouting at this person, and it's a girl's voice. Like I'm thinking a purse snatcher. Like the first thing that comes to my mind is like, I don't know, some ruffian dude who's knocking people over and taking their purses. But what they actually meant is like someone was going into unlocked apartments in this apartment complex I was living in and taking people's purses out of there, and I guess stealing their money or their wallets or ID or anything. And they're like, and like they're like yelling at this person, like, get down, stay down, we're putting handcuffs on you and stuff. Like, my girlfriend's translating this at the time, and I'm like, what? She's like, oh wow, they found the person. And so I can look down there all the way to the bottom, and it's this Korean girl, like with like a bunch of different purses, like 2 or 3 purses that are different colors on her. And, you know, she's shouting at them in Japanese. In general, Koreans tend to learn and become fluent in Japanese very quickly because there's a lot of the same grammar structure. So she's speaking really good Japanese, and she's like, please, no, don't try to arrest me. I don't even have like a valid passport. I don't have like a valid ID. Like, I don't want to be kicked out of the country. And they're like, that's not your problem right now. Your problem right now is that you've just stolen 2 purses. And I just thought, like, what? So this whole time, like, they weren't lying, they weren't joking, they weren't trying to like profile me. They were actually looking for this girl who was running through my apartment, trying to find people who left their doors unlocked. And yes, people in Japan leave their doors unlocked. I know it sounds crazy. Even in the city, they do it. And she was stealing stuff out of their places, which is just nutty, man. I can't believe it, dude. And she was somehow in Japan without a valid passport. I guess maybe it was expired. And she didn't have a valid gaijin card either, which, dude, you're in trouble. You know, they took her out of there bawling, which I can understand. She was probably really scared and like really upset. But at the same time, I mean, you shouldn't be stealing people's purses and money, dude. I'd like, you know, go to immigration and get your stuff figured out. I know it's scary, but dude, you get the other source of survival. Stealing people's money and purses is not the answer for sure. You're just going to get yourself in deeper and deeper. So those are my 4 big police encounters. I think I've actually told the last story before, but that one always shocked me. I always really thought like, man, that was like, what a plot twist. These guys were just being totally honest. And, you know, and after that, I just thought like, okay, I should never assume anything. When police do stop and ask me, like, they might actually be having a good reason to do so. So please, you know, don't take my stories and think like Japanese, all racist police. Although there have been certain times, there's been stories in the newspaper of them doing some kind of pretty racist stuff. So at the same time, keep your guard up a little bit. There was one guy, I don't remember if it was Shizuoka, I think it was at. He got stopped and he didn't have his gaijin card on him, which you're supposed to always have it on you. And by law, the Japanese police can take you to the Koban or the police department or the prison and keep you imprisoned for 21 days, trying to prove their case that like you're an illegal immigrant or that you've broken some kind of law or they have a justified reason for keeping you that long. And they took him to a prison and kept him there 21 days while they tried to figure out if he was like legit. And it's like, he literally said like, oh, sorry, I forgot like my gaijin card. We can just go back to my apartment and get it. And they're like, no, you're supposed to be carrying it on you at all times. Why don't you have it? And he was like, I just forgot. And they're like, no, you're not supposed to be walking around like that, you know. So, you know, be careful. Carry that gaijin card or your passport, one or the other. And, you know, just answer the questions and get through it. It's annoying, I know. I think it's not so bad now. I think there's been enough incidents where they've been like, okay, we got to kind of chill out, especially they've got a lot of tourism going on right now, so they're a little more chill. But then again, there's also tourists who come to Japan and act the fool, so maybe that makes them lose their chill all over again. Whatever. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw today or heard, please think about subscribing. I know I get a lot of people who watch but don't subscribe. I could really use your subscriptions right now. As we get closer and closer to the end of 2024, it makes a big difference. If you haven't already checked it out, my Osoroshi channel has a brand new video up. That's Osoroshi Nights. There's a brand new video on Japanese nightmares. If you check that one out, if you're into Japanese horror, you'll love it, I think. It's pretty creepy. Otherwise, I'll be on streaming tonight on this channel. And I'll just be I'll be answering your questions, and we'll probably be watching a Japanese movie tonight together, just kind of having a movie night. So come along, join, hang out. Everybody's welcome. You don't need to have ever come to a stream before. We look forward to any questions, anything you want to talk about. We're an open-minded and inviting group of online friends. So please come join, hang out, have fun. And even if you don't, I still hope you have a great rest of your day and the rest of your week. I'll talk to you again real soon.